The morning I walked into the Arvin Federal Camp outside Bakersfield, I had 73 cents in my front trouser pocket, a 4-day beard, and a photograph of 32 acres of Missouri bottomland that no longer belonged to anyone in my family. I kept the photograph in my breast pocket. I am not entirely sure why. The land was gone, sold at a loss in the winter of 1934 when my father got sick and the railroad money stopped coming and there was nothing else to sell. The photograph didn't change any of that. But I had been carrying it for 8 months and I had stopped asking myself why. The camp was outside Bakersfield on the Weed Patch Highway, and it was government-built and government-run, which meant it was something a man could recognize as decent in a landscape that had stopped being decent some time ago. Running water, shared latrines, a community kitchen with a wood stove that worked, 10 cents a night for a tent pad, which was 10 cents I had, and then 73 cents I had, and then 63 cents I had, in that order. The man at the gate wrote my name in the ledger, Doyle Calder, age 36, last address care of Fresno County Labor Camp, occupation listed as General Agricultural, and pointed me toward the tent area without looking up from his writing. I found a spot at the edge of the east row and put down the canvas bedroll that was the only thing I still owned that I hadn't acquired in California. And I sat on it and looked at the camp around me with the flat assessment of a man who has seen enough camps to know what a good one looks like. This was a good one. That was not nothing. In 8 months on the San Joaquin Valley circuit, I had slept in 3 private grower camps where the toilets were open trenches and the drinking water came from an irrigation ditch, and 1 tent city south of Fresno that the county health office had condemned in writing without doing anything about it in practice. The Arvin camp had a school for the children and a library with 40 books and a Saturday night dance on the grass when the weather held. The Saturday night dance was the detail that stopped me when the gate man mentioned it. I had not been anywhere with a Saturday night dance since before the blacklist. I had been a Missouri Pacific brakeman for 11 years, which was long enough to know the railroad the way you know a person you've worked alongside every day. Its moods, its rhythms, the particular sound it makes when something is wrong before anything visible has gone wrong. I was good at my work. I was not good at staying quiet when the company cut wages for the 3rd time in 2 years and then sent a man to the Poplar Bluff yard with a clipboard to tell 43 of us that our dues to the Brotherhood of Railroad Trainmen were a violation of our contracts. I signed the petition. So did 42 other men. By the following Tuesday, all 43 of us were off the payroll, and 2 of the men who had organized the effort had been found in an alley behind the yard office in conditions that the local paper described as the result of a dispute of a personal nature. I had not worked the railroad since. I had picked peaches in Tulare County in the summer of 1936 for 75 cents per 100 pounds, and cotton near Corcoran in the fall for the same rate. And I had moved between the federal camps and the private grower camps as the harvests moved. And I had gotten very good at the arithmetic of survival, which is a specific and humbling skill. You learn to calculate how many hours of picking at what rate produces how many cents, and how many cents buys how many days of tent pad and how many meals. And you learn to run this calculation automatically, the way a brakeman reads track signals, without having to think about it consciously. You learn that 73 cents represents a specific number of days of continued existence, and you treat that number with respect. What I did not have a calculation for was June Ferris. She was at the camp medical tent when I developed a blister on my right heel that went septic on my 3rd day at Arvin, the kind of thing that happens when a man has been wearing the same pair of boots for 8 months without the means to replace them. I went to the medical tent on a Thursday morning and sat on the wooden bench outside and waited the way you wait at camp medical tents, which is patiently and without expectation. Because the people who work them are always doing more than they have resources to do, and they know it and you know it, and there is a shared understanding that you will be seen when you are seen. She came out of the tent at 10 minutes past 9 with her sleeves rolled to the elbow and a basin in one hand, and she looked at me with pale blue eyes that took in the boot and the posture and the 4-day beard and the worn green railroad shirt and arrived at a working assessment in the time it takes most people to say hello. "Left foot," she said. "Right," I said. She looked at the right boot. "Come in." The tent had 2 cots, a wooden table with medical supplies organized with the neatness of someone who has learned that order is a form of safety when resources are thin, and a smell of carbolic soap and canvas and something faintly floral that I later understood was the hand cream she used, because medical soap dried her hands to cracking. She had me sit on the nearer cot and remove the boot and the sock with the practiced efficiency of a person who has seen this particular injury before and knows exactly what it is. She cleaned and dressed the blister without comment on how it had gotten to this state, which I appreciated. There is a particular quality of care that does not editorialize, that simply addresses what is in front of it, and I had encountered it rarely enough that I recognized it clearly when I did. Her hands were quick and certain. The silver watch at her breast caught the tent light as she worked. "You'll need to keep off it for 2 days," she said. "Come back tomorrow and I'll change the dressing." "I can't miss 2 days of picking," I said. She looked up at me. The pale blue eyes were direct and without apology. "If that blister reaches the bone, you'll miss considerably more than 2 days of picking," she said. "And you'll lose the boot permanently." I came back the next day, and the day after. Not entirely because of the blister, which was improving, but because of the way the tent felt at 9 in the morning, with the valley light coming in at the canvas seam, and the sound of the camp starting its day outside, and June Ferris moving around the space with the unhurried competence of someone who has made peace with her circumstances, without making peace with her ambitions for them. She talked while she worked, not performing, just talking, the way some people do when their hands are occupied and their mind is elsewhere. About the camp, about the families she was seeing, about a child named Marcus who had come in Tuesday with a respiratory cough that she was watching carefully and trying not to name yet because naming it cost his mother something she couldn't afford. She did not ask about me. I noticed this. At the federal camps, people asked. It was the first social gesture. "Where are you from? What did you do? How long have you been on the road?" The questions were not unkind. They were a way of locating a person in the shared geography of loss, of finding the common ground that let strangers be less strange to each other. June Ferris did not ask. She addressed what was in front of her and let everything else wait. On the 4th day, when the blister had closed enough to no longer require daily attention, I came to the medical tent anyway, with a loosened bracket on the wooden supply shelf that I had noticed was going to give way under the weight of the supply boxes within the week. I fixed it with a screwdriver I borrowed from the camp maintenance shed and a piece of wire I found near the tent post. She watched me do it without commenting until I was finished. Then she said, "Where did you learn to do that?" 11 years on the railroad, I said. "You learn to fix what's in front of you or it comes apart at the wrong moment." She was quiet for a moment. Then, "Missouri Pacific?" I looked at her. "The patch holes gave it away." "I grew up in Springfield," she said. "My father worked the Frisco line." She looked at the shelf. "Thank you for that." "It would have given way," I said. "I know," she said. "I'd been watching it." That was the longest conversation we had in the first week. It was also the most I had talked to anyone since a man named Garrett in the Fresno camp, who had been a school teacher before the bank took his house, and who played chess on a board he had drawn on a piece of cardboard with a fence nail and pieces he had carved from scrap wood. I had stopped at Garrett's tent one evening in March to watch him play himself, and stayed until midnight. He was the last person I had spoken to at any length about anything that wasn't agricultural labor or camp logistics. The thing about the camps was that they were full of people in the same condition, and that condition, after a while, became its own kind of silence. Not unfriendly, just complete. Everyone was carrying the same weight, and everyone knew it. And there was a specific exhaustion that comes from being surrounded by people who understand exactly what you're going through, because they are going through it too. and who are therefore exactly as depleted as you are, and who cannot spare what they would need to spare to be of much help. You could be surrounded by 500 people in the Arvin camp and feel the particular quiet of a man who has run out of people to tell the true things to. June Ferris did not appear depleted. This was the thing that I kept returning to in the first 2 weeks. She was not relentlessly cheerful. I would not have trusted that, and I don't think she would have offered it. But she was present in a way that most people at the camp were not, or could not afford to be. She listened to the families who came to the medical tent the way people listen when they are actually receiving what is said rather than waiting for their turn to speak. I had seen this quality twice in my life before, in my grandmother and in a foreman named Bill Cates on the Missouri Pacific, who had the uncanny ability to hear what a man was actually reporting about a stretch of track underneath the words he was using to report it. It was not a common quality. I did not know what to do with finding it here. I found reasons to come back to the tent. I am not proud of the transparency of this, but I am not going to dress it up as something else. The supply shelf had been a legitimate repair. After that, I noticed that the wooden step at the tent entrance was rotting at the far left side, and I replaced the board. I noticed that the canvas on the south-facing wall had a worn patch that would not survive another week of afternoon sun, and I sourced a needle and waxed thread from the camp sewing circle and restitched it. I was systematic about this in the way I had learned to be systematic about everything. One thing at a time, addressed before it became worse, not mentioned afterward. She mentioned it after the canvas repair. "You keep fixing things," she said. "They keep needing fixing," I said. She was folding gauze at the supply table. She did not look up. "Is that a railroad answer or a personal one?" I thought about it. "Both," I said. She was quiet for a moment. Then she set down the gauze and looked at me with the direct, pale blue look that I had learned meant she was deciding something. "I have a cot frame that needs a weld," she said. "The second cot. The left rear leg has a crack. I've been propping it with a rolled blanket, but someone's going to sit on it wrong and it'll go." "I can look at it," I said. I looked at it. The crack was through the weld and needed rejoining, which required access to the camp maintenance shed's equipment. This required speaking to a man named Holt, who ran the maintenance operation, and who was territorial about his shed in the way of a man who has been given a small amount of authority and has made it his entire personality. I spent 45 minutes negotiating access and another hour making the repair. When I brought the frame back and fitted the leg, June Ferris looked at it and then at me and said, "You didn't have to do all that." "Holt's not as difficult as he presents," I said. "You just have to let him win the first part of the argument." She laughed. It arrived before she decided to allow it. The kind of laugh that tells you something true about a person. It changed her face in a way that I found myself cataloging the way I used to catalog track conditions, automatically, with the specific attention of someone who understands that this detail matters and is not yet sure why. It was Ruth Hennessy who told me about June's husband. Ruth was the camp's unofficial historian, a Texas woman of 60 who had been at Arvin for a year and knew everything about everyone, in the way of someone with the time and the constitution for it. We were in the community kitchen line on a Tuesday evening, and Ruth mentioned June in the context of a family who had just arrived, and whose youngest child she was concerned about. And I must have had some particular expression because Ruth stopped mid-sentence and looked at me. "You don't know about Thomas," she said. I said I didn't know about Thomas. Thomas Ferris had been a doctor. He had come out from Missouri with June in 1935. They had both signed on for the FSA relief program, which was how she had ended up here, and how he had ended up here, and how he had ended up in the Valley Fever Ward at Kern County General Hospital in January 1936 with coccidioidomycosis, the valley fever that the dust carried in the San Joaquin, and how he had died there in March of 1936 after 6 weeks in which June had kept working the camp medical tent during the days and come to the hospital in the evenings. He had been 34 years old. They had been married for 3 years. I stood in the kitchen line and received this information and understood several things simultaneously. I understood why she had come, and why she had stayed, and why the staying had the quality it did. Not martyrdom, but something more honest than that. The decision of a person who has found that the work is the thing that holds her together, and is clear-eyed enough to know it. I understood why she had the specific quality of presence she had, the completeness of her attention. Because a person who has watched someone die slowly and carefully learns what it costs to not pay attention. And I understood, with the specific clarity of a man who has been not understanding something for 2 weeks while pretending it was something simpler, that what I felt when I was in that medical tent was not gratitude for the blister treatment. I did not go to the tent the next morning. I worked a full day in a peach orchard north of camp and came back in the evening and ate in the community kitchen and went to my tent and lay on my bedroll and had this specific internal argument that a man has when he is trying to be honest with himself about something he would prefer not to be honest about. The argument went approximately as follows. She was a widow of 14 months whose husband had been a doctor and who was clearly, whatever else was true, an exceptional person. I was a blacklisted railroad worker with 73 cents who had been sleeping in federal camps for 8 months and whose most recent fixed address was a tent pad in Fresno County. These were not equivalent positions. The photograph in my breast pocket was of land that no longer belonged to me and might as well be a photograph of a different person's life. I had nothing to offer her. The bracket and the canvas and the cot frame were all of it. A man repairing things because repairing things was the only language left to him. And even that was not nothing, but was also not something you build a case on. The argument was thorough. It covered most of the ground I could think of. And when it was finished, I lay on the bedroll in the dark of the tent and thought about her laugh arriving before she decided to allow it, and about the way she had said the word Thomas when she described his approach to field medicine. Not with grief exactly, but with the specific quality of someone honoring a thing that deserves to be honored, and about the silver watch pinned at her breast that had been her mother's. And the argument, which had been very thorough, turned out not to have covered all the ground after all. I went to the tent the following morning to check the canvas repair in the south wall seam. This was not a pretense. Canvas repairs in the valley heat needed checking within 10 days. She was seeing a family when I arrived, and I waited on the wooden step and looked at the camp in the morning light, the rows of canvas tents and the children moving between them toward the camp school, and the smoke from the community kitchen, and the flat valley floor stretching south in the early haze toward the Tehachapi Mountains. When the family left, she came to the doorway and looked at me on the step. "I heard you worked yesterday," she said. "Peach orchard north of camp," I said. "The seam looks all right," she said about the canvas repair. "I wanted to check it at 10 days, I said. She looked at me for a moment with the direct pale blue look. Then she said, "There's coffee. It's yesterday's grounds, but it's hot." I went in. We drank yesterday's grounds, and she told me about Thomas in the way of someone who has decided to say a thing once, clearly, so that it doesn't have to be navigated around. She told me who he had been and what had happened, and what the 6 weeks at Kern County General had been, and what March of 1936 had cost her. She said it without asking for anything from me in return, and without performing the grief, and without apologizing for having it. When she finished, she picked up her cup and held it in both hands, and looked at the supply shelf I had reinforced and said, "I stay because I can't find a reason to go that outweighs the reasons to stay." I thought about the photograph in my breast pocket, about 32 acres of Missouri bottomland that belonged to a bank now, and before that to my father, and before that to his father, and before that to whatever this land had been when it was nobody's yet. I thought about 11 years on the railroad and 43 signatures on a petition, and the specific arithmetic of 73 cents. And then I thought about a wooden step that needed replacing, and a canvas seam that needed watching, and a cot frame that needed a weld, and about how long it had been since I had been somewhere that needed what I knew how to do. I took the photograph out of my breast pocket. I set it on the supply table between us. She looked at it. Missouri bottomland, summer probably. The light on it the way summer light sits on river bottom soil. "That's your land," she said, not a question. "Was," I said. "Banks now." She looked at it for a long moment. Then she looked at me. "Why do you still carry it?" I had been asking myself the same question for 8 months. Standing there in the medical tent with yesterday's coffee going cold in my hand, I understood for the first time that I had the answer. "Because it's what I came from," I said, "not what I'm going to." She was quiet for a long time. The camp moved around us outside, the sounds of mourning, children and cooking fires, and someone's radio playing something indistinct 2 rows over. Then she said, very carefully, "That's a different thing than most men carry." "Most men I know carry it the other way," I said. "What they lost, what they're owed." "And you don't." I thought about the petition, about 42 other signatures, about 2 men in an alley, about the specific decision made in the Poplar Bluff yard with a pen in my hand and the clipboard in front of me to sign anyway, knowing what it was likely to cost. "I knew what I was signing," I said. "I'd do it again." She looked at me with the pale blue eyes that had been looking at hard things long enough that hard things no longer made her look away. Something shifted in her expression, not softening exactly, more like the removal of a specific kind of vigilance. "I have a camp inspection on Friday," she said. "FSA supervisor from Sacramento. He'll want the medical records organized by family unit and cross-referenced with the intake logs." She paused. "I've been putting it off because it's 3 days of paperwork and I can't do the tent work at the same time." "I can do the tent work," I said. She looked at me. "You're not a nurse." "No," I said, "but you can tell me what to watch for and what to refer to you and what to send away, and I can follow those instructions and free up 3 days." A long pause. "You'd have to get here at 7, she said. "I'll be here at 7, I said. I was there at 6:45. She was already at the supply table organizing the records. She looked up when I came in and said, "There's coffee," and then went back to the records. It was not yesterday's grounds. She had used the last of the new coffee, which I understood was not nothing. The 3 days were the closest thing to a week of ordinary life that I had experienced since before the blacklist. I sat at the tent entrance and received the families and the single men and the children with coughs and the women with hands raw from washing other people's laundry for 15 cents a load. And I took the names and the complaints and the histories the way she had shown me and referred to her everything that needed referring and handled with good sense and clean dressings everything that didn't. She worked on the records at the table behind me and occasionally came to look over my shoulder at something I had noted, and once or twice corrected me, and once or twice said nothing which I understood to mean I had it right. On the 3rd evening, when the FSA supervisor had come and gone satisfied, and the records were filed and the tent was quiet, she sat on the nearer cot with her shoes off and her feet on the cool canvas floor and held her coffee cup with both hands and said, "You're good at that." "Railroad brakeman reads people the same way," I said. "You learn fast who's telling you the truth about the track condition and who's telling you what they think you want to hear." She looked at the tent wall. "Thomas was good at it too," she said, "but differently. He had the doctor's version, more formal. He asked the right questions in the right order." She paused. "You just listen until they tell you." "Sometimes that's faster," I said. "Sometimes it is," she said. Outside, the Saturday night dance had started on the grass, the fiddle and the flat-pick guitar carrying across the camp in the warm May evening. We could hear it from the tent, not well enough to make out the song, just the shape of it, the rhythm and the tone. "I haven't been to the dance," she said, "since Thomas." I didn't say anything. "I tell myself I'm tired on Saturdays," she said, "which is true, but it's not the reason." The fiddle played something slow, the kind of slow that means the evening is getting late and the people who are still there are the ones who aren't ready to go back to their tents yet. "June," I said, and then I stopped because I had 11 words prepared and they had all gone to some other place than my mouth. She looked at me. The pale blue eyes were very direct in the lamplight. "I know," she said. I haven't said anything, I said.
You fixed my shelf, she said, and my step, and my canvas, and my cot frame. She looked at the supply shelf. You've been saying it for 3 weeks. I looked at the photograph, which I had set on the supply table after the coffee that morning, and left there because she had not asked me to take it back. I don't have anything, I said. You understand that. No railroad, no land. 73 cents when I walked in, and I'm not significantly ahead of that now. I know what you have, she said. She said it the way she said most things, directly, without apology, without softening it into something it wasn't. You have 11 years of learning how to read what's actually happening instead of what people say is happening. You stay when staying costs you something. You sign petitions. She paused. You fix things before they fall apart, and you don't mention it afterward. The fiddle outside played the slow song through and started something else, something with more lift to it. I'd like to go to the dance, she said, if you were going. I was going. We walked across the grass to where the fiddle and the flat-pick guitar were set up at the edge of the community building, and the people who were there looked at us the way people in camps look at things that give them reason to feel something other than what the week has given them, with a particular quiet warmth that has nothing performative in it. Ruth Hennessy saw us from across the grass, and her expression did something complicated and satisfied that she had the grace not to say out loud. June danced the way she did everything, with complete attention, without self-consciousness, without any apparent concern for what she looked like doing it. I am not a good dancer, I told her so. I know, she said. I can tell. You're not going to offer to teach me, I said. I'm not a teacher, she said. I'm a nurse. I'll just tell you when you're doing it wrong. I did it wrong several times, she told me. It was the best hour I had spent in 2 years. We did not say anything important on the walk back across the grass. We didn't need to. There are conversations that happen entirely in the decision to take a step in a particular direction. And we had been having that conversation for 3 weeks. And by the time we reached the medical tent door, it was concluded. She stopped at the door. Come back tomorrow, she said. For what? I said. For coffee, she said. The good kind. I came back the next morning. I came back the morning after. I have been coming back every morning for longer than I am going to put a number to, because the number would make it sound like a calculation, and it was never that. I still have the photograph. It is still in my breast pocket, and it is still 32 acres of Missouri bottomland that does not belong to me. But I understand now what I was carrying it for, and it is not the land. It is the proof that I came from somewhere, that I was someone before the blacklist and the camps and the 73 cents, that there is a version of Doyle Calder who built things and fixed things and stood for something even when it cost him. That man is not gone. He walked into the Arvin Federal Camp on a Thursday morning with a septic blister and a photograph, and 3 weeks later he was dancing badly on a May evening to a fiddle and a flat-pick guitar, and the woman beside him was laughing before she decided to allow it. I kept coming back. That is the whole of it. That is everything.